Hello, welcome to The Honest Wargamer. I'm your host, Rob, or am I? And I'm joined today on the Age of Sigmar Stat Center by Online Owen, the man who needs no introduction. He's a cactus. Hello, sir. How are you?
I'm good. I've been called worse than that. Coctus, probably more than cactus.
Cactus is a good name. I like that.
Yeah, no, I'm good. I'm good. I mean, it's pretty damn bright here, so apologies if the viewers are getting blinded by the sun behind me. But I'm a control freak, but I can't control that. But yeah, no, I'm good. I'm very good. It's had a nice weekend, pretty chilled weekend for me actually. No tournaments. There was a little tournament I was going to enter yesterday, but the timings didn't work out. But yeah, no, I'm pretty okay. I think feeling a little bit festive. How are you today, Rob? Are you well?
I'm feeling very festive. I think I can hear myself through. Anyway. I think you're on it. I'm feeling great because, as the Twitch chat has seen, big shout out to MJ Pegasus for donating £2.69. We are officially at Stream Streak Day 269. Happy birthday to ya! Happy birthday. That's right.
I should have created all manner of really lewd sort of jokes and innuendos. Damn it! I failed. I've got all these notes, and none of them are to do with sexual positions. I fucking failed you all. I'm sorry.
What's it? Thanks for subscribing. You're a new subscriber, so welcome to the team, baby. That's right, 69. Nice. There's only one way to celebrate, really, but unfortunately, unless me and Owen weren't, we're divided by distance and
sexual preference probably as well.
I'd be punching up Owen. I think there's no one in the chat that doesn't think that my assless form would be any good for you.
Almost spat out me water. Bloody hell. Yeah, no, it's a bit early for all that jazz, isn't it, Rob? When does the internet know? We could get on some kind of like futuristic sexy suit and press the erogenous zones digitally. I'm sure that could happen, right? If you really wanted it to happen.
I want it to happen. I want you also to know now that, as you guys are aware, like obviously we're on the road to 369. We're now a bit of an origin story might occur today. We've got the whole Age of Sigmar Stat Center to go, but maybe from today I am actually evil twin Rob and not real Rob for the next 100 days. Find out in 100 days whether or not real Rob defeats evil twin Rob, or if I'm even real evil twin Rob, and what occurs. So maybe everything I say over the next 100 days will be a lie. Just really throw it out, Owen. Yeah.
This is some like Inception shit going down here. I'm not really with it this morning anyway. I'm a bit foggy. And you just throw me. What are we talking about again? Who are you?
Nothing. So I want to say thank you to everyone that was watching on Patreon. I literally couldn't have done this without you. Lost my job at the beginning of lockdown. You guys all supported me so I could do this. We've done the stream streak ever since because we thought it'd support everyone. So 269. I like that we celebrate 269 more than the 300 mark. It's more important. It's more important for all of us.
Yeah. That's a mark of the level of infantile behaviour we get up to, right?
Does evil twin Rob prefer marmalade? Is that the difference? Maybe even Marmite. Who knows? But today we're doing the Age of Sigmar Stat Center. Oh, Dead Nerve, thanks also for subscribing. Welcome to the team. We're talking Age of Sigmar Stats and events from around the world. Owen, bit of an issue there though.
Yeah. We kind of. Hold up! Look at that. MJ Pex has just gifted 5.
MJ Pegasus is such an angel. He supported the whole way through. Been here. Lodi, you've been here the whole way through. I can't thank you enough. Thank you, MJ Pegasus. You superstar. You're all brilliant. Thanks to the new subscribers on Patreon as well, Simon and Wrath of Techlist. Both of you are just fucking great dudes. Thanks just for supporting us generally, all of you. You've all been wonderful, and hopefully this supports you.
Yeah, no, it does. I was talking to Anna about that yesterday. It's like, it's a symbiotic relationship. We help each other. You help yourself. You know what I'm trying.
Oh my god, that's fine. You can't hurt evil Rob. You can't hurt evil twin Rob. It's fine.
Your shield is up and you can fuck the world. No, you're right. Going back to the subject. What are we talking about? Warhammer. Yes, the Age of Sigmar Stat Center. In the future, there's going to be like a banner running along the bottom, isn't there, with like latest results, and there's going to be live reporters across the world. But that whole system is incumbent on us having events to talk about, right? And yeah, it's like a wasteland. The
Well,
only
normally at
sorry,
this
go on.
time of the year it is. Normally at this time of year it is anyway, obviously, because it's Christmas time. Well, coming up to Christmas time. Normally people are like chilling out, or they're effectively like it's not necessarily a very busy time anyway for gaming. So it kind of just does tend to wind down with the big push. Like, oh, January is going to be mad. But in January it's going to be not mad.
It's just gonna be mad. That's it, right? That's the only difference there.
But like there's still been some fun things happening, and I've been really enjoying keeping up with what's been going on with the Butcher's GT, like
Yes.
which is something we're going to talk about today. So, is Christmas going to be an off season? Yes, definitely. Also, 69 viewers, just nailed it. Fucking get in, lads. Nice.
It's downhill from here now.
So what do we have as a roundup for today? Like what's on the list?
Well, we've got a few bits. There was a couple of tournaments going on, and the Butchers tournament, which we've been checking in with, has sort of reached its conclusion. There are a couple of games still outstanding, but none of those will threaten the top 10. So I figured it might be a good opportunity to talk about that. So yeah, we've got the Butchers kind of final top 10 and see how everybody shook down there. There was a couple of one days. There was a little one day, an American TTS one, which I've got a bit of news about. And then there was a 30-player event in Australia, run by Anthony, the AOS coach. I think it was called Sigmar. So I've got a bit of info there. No sort of deep dive on the lists or anything, but some interesting armies went unbeaten there. So.
I have some event results, Owen, as well. I have thank you again to Marcus Rock. You such a babe. Yeah. So the French TTS League, which I know you'll be excited by, Owen. French TTS League has finally wrapped up. It was only 22 players, but they did it over the course of several games. One of the cool elements about it was I think that you were able to ban, like they were all allowed to collect together and ban one of, like there were 3 potential battle plans, and you could ban one of the 3.
Oh, okay.
If that makes sense, or choose one of the 3, effectively. However, let me just get you the results. In first place was Anchor with Tts Sigmar. So it was a 4 game event, really to fuck with the pigeons. Like, there's someone out there like, how many games you play? 4 game event. They were like, what? Was it 2 days? Was that 1 day? Like,
they're very individual, aren't they? They're just doing their own thing out there. I bet they played 2,500 points as well, didn't they?
No, 2,015 points. Like, just to fuck with us.
Nearly lost my water again.
Anyway, so Tts Sigmar won by Anchor, big shout, and then Nikki and Frank, they were only separated by strength of schedule, but Stormcast Eternals and Disciples of Zinj, nice to see Order back on top for a change. Like, there you go, bit of Tts Sigmar. I still think Tts Sigmar got amazing legs in the game. Still think Halaheart's a thing. Still think Tempest Eye's a thing. I think a bunch of Iron Drakes, a bunch of like little naked, a fully armored dwarf dudes in Tempest Eye is pretty terrifying. So congratulations to those French guys. The French scene is alive and kicking, by the way, like on TTS, but generally, like from what I've always understood, they just oftentimes don't give a shit about the rest of the world. They're like, fuck you, goddamn English, I will tell you the results. Marcus Rock, I hope you enjoyed that, and I apologise to everyone else for it. But anyway, that's mine. We're
supposed to be trying to get a deal at the moment, Rob. We're supposed to be trying to get a deal. We're supposed to be nice to our European partners and neighbours. So, can the accents?
I apologise, you dirty French dogs. I really like you. I really like Marcus. He's always messaging me, and he's a super fucking lovely dude. Anyway, go on, Owen, after you.
All I was going to say is, do you know what city that was? Perhaps Marcus, if he's in the chat, could furnish us with that information. But I'd be interested to, because obviously when you say cities, it's a bit like there's so many options within. It's a bit like when you say Seraphon. There's there's lots of different ways of building that. So it'd be interesting to see Hallowheart by the looks of it, which I still think Hallowheart's got game, definitely. Sorry. I'm just getting smiled at by Anna. That's nice.
Oh, hi Anna! Can we all shout out Owen's wonderful Mrs. Anna? She's great, really lovely lady. Real nice.
So sorry, got thrown off there. Yeah, that's cool. It's nice to see. I think, last couple of events we've covered, there's been no cities. So, yeah. I still think they've got a lot of game, and I know that people such as like Simon Hall over in Oz, he's a very big proponent of cities. Playing all sorts of stuff. A big block of 30 Phoenix Guard and a Hurricane them often pop up, don't they? But yeah, cool. But yeah, outside of that, we can. Where do you want to start, Rob? Do you want to start? I think if we're going to deep dive into the butchers, maybe we'll finish there. So I've literally the Sigmas event. I'm sure some more information will come out about this. But yeah, it looks to be 30 players. I know Australia is a big country. I don't know exactly where in Australia it was. But yeah, 30 players. There were four lists went 3-0. Nighthaunt won. See, so I'm, like my little bat ears pricked up here. I mean, I'm intrigued by that. I know that Matt Tyrell has been playing, a lot of Nighthaunt recently, and he actually just missed out on the top 10 for Butchers. He went 4-2 in the Butchers event, which is fantastic with Nighthaunt. So yeah, I'm super intrigued as to what that list was and how it what it played. But other than that, there was two ogre lists won all their games, so that was a winter
Nice.
bite list. So nice to see that winter bite, which was
Nice. Was that run by Stuart or not? No.
no, Stuart wasn't there. No, but obviously people are tapping into that, and then a blood gullet, Pask, the TO for the Butchers tournament. He played in that with a blood gullet list, and he got the 3 wins. And then there is I need to dig into this, but an OBR list went 3-0, and if my notes are correct, it was a Nagash and Catacross army, but I don't want to be held on that. And I've been told by Pask it was in Sydney, the event. But yeah, Nagash and Catacross. I've run that once, and it's bloody hard mode because you haven't got much from the table, but it's hellish fun, and it does mean that you get Nagash on his 2-up save, so it's like old Petrifex, and you get the +1 to hit, obviously, from Catacross.
All the resing as well. Like, yeah, the bodies you have aren't like there isn't a lot, but like if you don't kill the unit, it's basically getting the whole unit back, right?
Yes, and I can see there passing it says Benji is a really good player though. So does that mean that I'm not very good because I played it and didn't win all my
No,
games?
it's just
Is
the
that what we're saying?
dice. It's the luck of the
Okay,
situation. That's how it
right,
works.
good. As long as we've got that clear. Yeah. So and then yeah, there was this little one day, and now there were some good players there. I did see that this one day it was called the Iron Kraken. It was just a little TTS one. I think Ghoul King Bill played. Bill Souza was in there, and
Nice.
Noah, who again we're going to touch on with the Butchers tournament, but he went 5-1 and came third in the Butchers tournament. So he was in there, and yeah, some other Clay. So some of the sort of North American community that I've sort of got to know. I know that they put on a little event, but our boy Casper, who we had on the stream at my Hammer Time 6, he was playing the Archeon with the Bray Shaman.
Put the frog in the sword.
Casper who put the frog in the sword. I played the list actually in midweek. He's playing like a Kairos Eternal Conflagration list with loads of horrors. So he's going for those sports votes. But he won all his games and came out on top there. So yeah, one to watch there, Casper.
I mean, that internal configuration list has been doing solid work forever. I mean, looking towards some of the key changes that we're expecting from the Winter FAQ, we're expecting like Seraphon to get some sort of nerf, and I would think Change Host and or Flamers to get like some sort of hit. They're generally doing very, very well. I wouldn't be surprised if we see KO just bump back to pre-GHB points as well. They're like, oh.
Yeah, that extra 10% of your army, you put that back away now because you can't fit it in again. Yeah, they get a bit too much. But saying that, Rob, still not really seeing much KO about. Once again, there was no KO in the Butchers tournament. There's no KO in my last Hammer Time tournament. Yeah, not really sure. I think
maybe it's just not the sort of people who would collect TTS, curmudgeon-y old dwarves, not really people pro technology and want to use it. Maybe, but maybe are there good sculpts for the KO stuff in TTS as well? It could be simple as that they don't look particularly good.
Yeah, there was an update there. There was some rather janky kind of like Howl's Moving Castle kind of wonky. I don't know where they'd been nicked from. There was some sort of wonky stuff floating around at the start. I did play somebody with an ironclad, and it looked more like a fucking paddle steamer than than something from. But somebody has done the yeah. There are some KO. I just think I think you'll. It's a funny one. I think KO you'll see more in person than you will on TTS
Agreed.
because the model range is really nice and people like sort of to paint and collect that. Yeah, again,
So
Pask says no KO in the Sigmas event either.
yeah,
So
also no KO over in France, according to Marcus Rock. So maybe this is a concurrent theme. Chris CB is asking, is everyone just being a gentleman not taking KO? I'd argue that all the other lists that we see, which are pure like dogging, like absolutely rough as can be, would argue that I don't think that's the point, right? I don't think KO is like such an auto win that people aren't taking it.
no,
Because they're taking the Seraphon, they're taking the Lumineth, they're taking the Zinch. Maybe the people on TTS and around the world, like these posted KO results aren't necessarily like the tip of the top. The only ones that like come into me that like really stand out are the New Zealand events. When we've seen like Barrett Mornar play particularly well. AOS Tubbs over in New Zealand did really well with that 5-man event in a very tough field. So that's the only kind of like maybe valuable result I've seen posted with the KO. Like you can talk about some events, but it's really about like the value of those events sometimes. Anyway, but yeah, the no KO is an interesting one, and maybe when we see it pop up, maybe it'll be something people play again. Maybe people don't want to collect that. There's no answer.
I don't know, but there's an argument to say that with the rise of Ideneth, it kind of really kicks KO in the balls a bit. So maybe people are thinking about it in that sense, thinking there's going to be a lot of sharks and eels, and only being able to shoot the closest unit. That being said, they can just go wherever they want and shoot. I don't know. Yeah, it's an interesting one. I would be intrigued to see how many KO armies are on the table when we get back to playing in real life in some sort of distant future.
Not long.
Okay.
Not long.
Okay.
We just need to lie about our age. We need to do a Mrs. Doubtfire, Owen. Yeah?
Okay.
Right? Dress up like some old ladies, go get that jab, and then we're started.
Okay, nice. Set fire to my fake boobs in the kitchen. That was a thing, right? I remember that.
That was a thing. I'm really into that.
Man,
tune in.
And that was so because wasn't Robin Williams into Warhammer? Did you know that?
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he collected loads of Space Marines. He had a time. Yeah, he was. This is Doubtfire. I love Warhammer. Anyway,
that's what this show's all about, right?
Yeah. Go on, after you. Sorry, what you said.
I don't know. I was running out of steam, to be honest with you, Rob. But no, I was going to say, actually, a nice little segue is so the Butchers tournament. Somebody that I did see was playing KO for quite a while, which is a South London Legion member who is an Australian resident, Arthur Vulgaris. He was playing KO quite a bit. And now he's switched back to, I think, what was one of his first loves. I'm pretty sure he ran Petrifex Nagash at CanCon. He actually might have been the player who had the Zinch player. You can steal their spell. I think he had his Nagash Hand of Dusted off at CanCon. I don't know if you remember that being a story.
Yeah, I do.
But yeah, so Arthur's gone back to one of his first loves. He's back with his Bone Reapers. I wanted to dip in to his list because we haven't mentioned him in our previous Butchers chats, and he ended up 5-1. I just missed on third place. Yeah, so he went 5-1 at the Butchers tournament with his Bone Reapers. I don't think any other OBR player. Oh, actually, to be fair, Benji went 4-2. But yeah, he was very much the best death and pulled out a lot of really good results with that. So I don't know if you've got the top 10 there, Rob, or you can bring it up.
Give me but moments.
So yeah, we've got through the Butchers tournament. So this is Butchers Buffet, run by Pask, 52 players, 6 games over 6 weeks. As I say, there's a couple of things still to wrap up, but we now do have a finalized top 10 that we can have a look at, and then let's have a deep dive into Arthur's list and have a chat about what he beat and the strengths. I'm kind of in my comfort zone here with OBR because I do know the book relatively well. So I'm rambling. I'm not sure if you've.
I got it, baby. Don't worry. I'm right here. So we're talking about Arthur. Okay?
Yes.
You guys can see the list. Oh, it might not work because sometimes Tabletop Tier doesn't want to do this. No problem. Sometimes it just doesn't want to click over to the lists.
Yeah, it's a weird one. It can all weekend. It was. It's a funny one. I was going to say because it might have been really, really busy, but there's not that many tournaments going on. But yeah, it can be a little bit.
YouTube is currently down.
Wow.
Yeah, as is Google. So that's pretty fascinating.
I can run us through the top 10 if you like.
Hold on, here we go. I got the list. Arthur.
So yeah, it's a really interesting one because it's Mortis Praetorians, but it's not Catacross. So obviously a lot of people are thinking you need to put the big K in there just so he can give out his lovely +1 and all the sweet tech that he brings. Nicking a CP thing is just so demoralizing for your opponent. I have opponents say to me, right, am I going to be able to do what I want to do this turn then? Oh no, you rolled a 4 up. Okay, fine, carry on. It's like taking a CP away from your opponent is a horrible thing. But he didn't take Catacross. Yeah, it is brilliant. So let's have a little look. So from the top, it's Mortis Praetorians. He's taken the named Liege Cavalos. He has the Arch Cavalos Xantos, who's a sweet pick. And then he has the Liege Cavalos. So I think of these two sort of like mounted brothers going forth. There's a Soul Mason, which is the guy on the floaty chair. And then he has that big block of 40 Mortek Guard. And then he has 2 10s of Mortek Guard, a Gothisar Harvester, and 2 of those Mortek Crawlers, a Mortek Shield Corps Battalion, and a Soul Stealer Carrion.
Okay,
so
look at that indestructible Mortek Guard unit behind the Harvester. Absolutely horrific. And then obviously backed up by all of the healing that you're also going to be able to put back into the unit. I quite like that pick actually. I quite like I know it's over the top, but I do like that 640 point combination in some ways. It's just like, can you ever deal with this really? And it gives you that one punch survivability, which is really, really quite cool. You don't often see that. It's not as common. Because maybe you just take another unit of Mortek Guard or whatever. But I think that's quite fun because it situationally gives you more survivability than necessarily wounds on the board initially seem to make sense of. So I think that's really cool. It's a nice combo.
It's a really nice combo. Sorry, Rob, I'm terrible for talking over you. I think general wisdom is that you go 40, a block of 40, or you go 20 with a Harvester. But 40 with a Harvester is just like... It will play very similarly to how you expect in your mind the army to play, that you've just got this advance, this slowly grinding advance of this huge block of unkillable troops that, much like in the Game of Thrones episode where he sort of rises his whole army back up again. That's exactly what he's doing here. I think the 40 with the Harvester just means that the really outrageous shooting that's in the game at the moment, it still can't break through that list. That block of 40, and the way in which he's able to regenerate them. Should we just talk about that Harvester War Scroll, just for anyone who's not not informed? Because I have to admit, I've never used one. I've got one. Let me just bring up the War Scroll.
I used 2 before, when the book first landed, and it was infinite ability. Me and Nathan played a couple of test games. I was like, this is broke as shit, Nathan. He was like, oh no, show me. And I was like, here we go. And he couldn't defeat. It was indestructible. But basically, they have an ability. I think it's within 3 inches. Any model within 3 inches dies. You roll a 4+, you're able to put that unit basically back on the board, or you basically re-harvest it and put it on. So it's on a 4 up. And if you have another Harvester nearby, you can't then do it twice. Otherwise, that was the broken combo. It meant you basically rolled 2 dice for 1 model, and sometimes you could generate both back. So it was pretty strong. But I think it's within 3.
It is, yeah. I've got it here. It's the Bone Harvest ability.
Yeah.
This terrifying construct collects the bones of the slain, using them to heal itself. reconstruct nearby Ossiarch Bone Reapers, or make new constructs once the battle is over. Yeah, so he's the lad who's got the fella down on his groin, smiling away, picking up bones and regenning. I mean, Grinaldi does make a good point in the chat, which he just says, but won't outrageous shooting just shoot the harvester first? Yeah, that's fair. I mean, it's still...
it just means that they're not shooting the guard, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Because he doesn't have a huge amount of healing in here. Actually, to be fair, outside of the harvester, he's got 0 healing, I want to say. Yeah, because you normally get your healing from like a Nagash or one of the other characters. Cat. That's why Catacross is often in there for that healing. So he is very much relying on the harvester to sort of keep that 40 block topped up. The rest of the list, Sam, the way in which it works, he's a 6 drop. He's got 6 RDP, which is kind of about right. And then he gets a free shield wall. So he's got the two Liege Cavalos. I'd imagine the way in which he plays it, the general who's the Liege Cavalos, the unnamed one, he's got the Helm of the Ordained, which is great. It's a 12-inch bubble, wholly within 12, +1 to hit. So that synergizes really nicely with the Liege Cavalos's Endless Duty, I think it's called, the command ability, which is +1 attack, which again is wholly within 12.
And for some reason you can do that on the harvesters. The crawlers.
The crawlers, yeah, you can do that on the crawlers. So he's got 1 liege that can push with the block and buff them. So those 40 Mortek can have 3 attacks each. And then he's got I'd imagine Xantos sits at the back, because Xantos, he has the command ability for +1 attack. Plus he's got a secondary command ability, which gives reroll 1s to wound, or reroll all wounds against chaos. So that basically means he's sat at the back with 2 crawlers. That's 8 shots, 2s to hit, 3s to wound, rerolling 1s, or 3s to wound, rerolling all failed wounds against chaos. And there's a lot of chaos around. So the kind of things that you'd expect to be shooting at, those blocks of, I don't know, let's say 40 clan rats, or, 10 pink horrors that are then splitting out. There's a lot that you can do against things with a 5-up save, or perhaps even if I watched in one of his games against Cole, he just shot. One of them shot at 20 storm vermin, and all he did was he failed 3 of his 4-up saves and just lost 3/4 of the unit. That flat 5 damage.
Flat 5 damage is insane.
Yeah.
Like we saw at the Sheffield Slaughter earlier in the year, seeing Nagash fail 3 3-ups and end up taking 15 damage turn 1 to the crawlers is horrific. It's why I think the crawlers are very, very, very good, and anyone who's about to listen to what I next say, don't be offended. I think they're very, very, very good, but I also think that they do have they're swingy, because that armor save, even a 6-up, can stop that 5 damage. There's no rend on them, and I think that's a big bonus to their terror output. Should they be more points? Maybe a little bit more points, but they do a really, really good job. But they're I think it's one of my favourite war scrolls, the way it's written. The specialist shots, I maybe could live without, but the rest of it, I think it's done really well. It's got a minimum range. You can lock it in combat. It's got a really good big footprint, so that's bad for it, because it can get tagged into combat. So yeah, it's really good. But 2 of them is that's wild, right? Because you can each +1 attack, so you can do 8 shots a turn.
And he's got the Soul Mason in there, who's got his War Scroll spell is reroll 1s to hit, and on a 2-up he can cast it again. So he could easily have both of them on 2s rerolling 1s, 3s rerolling 1s. And then you're just asking your opponent. It can be a real feel bad, but at the same time, it's very much it's the epitome of the dice game, right? You're just rolling those dice and okay, shit, I've just lost 20 guys because I couldn't roll 4 5-up saves, and wallop, they're all gone. It's 43-inch effective threat range on the shots, because they got a 4-inch move, and then you can buff it. That is one thing that can catch people out, is that you buff the movement, because obviously for a relentless discipline point you can make any Ossiarch Bone Reapers unit can add 3 to their movement. So you could get a 7-inch move and then a 36-inch shot. And I do really like I do really like the special shots because, again, they can create some magic moments. I mean, we know how hard it is to kill Croak, for example. So you don't need to put him in the sword. You just need to roll an 8 on 2 dice. Yeah.
Yep, that's true. That's true. The
Yeah.
specialist shots. I think the specialist shots are one of the reasons that we've seen like a whole swath of armies, specifically Gits, not really even make it into the game anymore. Because the two Mortek crawlers are just like a power piece play just for this list anyway. Like they, we talk about gatekeeping lists, but these are like this is a meta-defining war scroll. The fact that 2 of them is so synonymous with an OCRX list, they're so common, means you don't see hordes of Gits because that one shot that it's got, it'll just wipe them out. Like there's whole armies effectively which don't exist because these crawlers are there and they're common and they're on the table a lot. Sometimes you're like, oh, it's nice something like that is in there. It keeps things honest. I'm not 100% certain like the Gits need keeping honest, but
they were not. They weren't running wild, were they?
Yeah. Yeah. So like it's interesting because like you say, they're there for the long term, and they define the meta. So when you do write your list, you need to ask yourself, well, what do I do with 8 damage 5 shots coming in against me? I mean, like I feel like Chaos and Safe Darkness have good answers in their rerollable saves, good armor saves that you find on Stormcast, etc. But when it's like more those like finesse armies, like so Zinch with their 6-up pink horrors. They're not finesse army. That's a bad choice. Some of those other armies, they're in a really tough spot ultimately.
And there is ways to counter them. Like, they have a minimum range of 6 inches. So if you can get a model, even if you're not necessarily in combat with it, you don't need to tag it as in charge it and hold and tag it. You can just be within its minimum range, and then it has to sort of either move or you've tagged it up. I mean, I think at one of the heats, when there was peak sort of change host, we saw, again, talking of JP, he had both his crawlers tied up with a changeling. So if you can have like a board edge deep strike or a teleport, there is a way of tying them up, and that is always the real challenge with these lists with the crawlers, is how much do you, it's not just 200 points, you very much need some screening units to stop them being tagged in that manner. But then it's great as well. I'll have to check if they're a monster or not. I don't think they're a monster, but they're
a behemoth, so like they're really, really good on focal points and anything where you score bonus points. It's just wild that they're available there, but they do need to be, like you said, like again, go back to that game at Sheffield Slaughter where we saw JP play, I think, and screening out with his harvesters and then using his character at the back to screen out. They don't have a lot of board control. OCR Bone Reapers generally, and even less so like that Gothzar Harvester, and also Catacross isn't there as well. Like normally, they just don't have there's a lot of points being spent all over the place in this army. And so they generally don't have tons and tons of board presence. I think the game gets better for them like with smaller boards next year. This army becomes even stronger and scarier. But we'll see whether or not those crawlers generally get a points increase, because they're effective turn 1, right? Like they're just there. But I wonder how badly the army would fare if they didn't have it in the list. And I feel like they are a good answer for what the army needs.
Definitely, I agree, and like you can see that if you can get in your opponent's head and have them trying to mitigate your strengths rather than just trying to impose their game plan on you, like straight from deployment, it's like shit. Okay, so that's where you've deployed your front line. The crawlers are going to be somewhere behind that, and I'm going to start having to measure 43 inches back from there if I want to protect my little characters. Another thing which is great is, I've done this previously as well, is that when you've got those 6 wound heroes, the Bone-Tide Nexus just doing a mortal wound on a 2-up. So, for example, let's say I've killed a war chanter, 6 wounds, right? And a key piece for an army. So turn 1, you can just go, okay, on a 2-up, I'm going to do 1 mortal wound to that. And then I'm going to fling 4 shots at your war chanter. And, hopefully you're going to fail one of those saves. And then turn 1, your key buff piece is dead off the board. It's really good for mind games when you've got something that can reach that far out. I think it's a very different army without that piece of artillery.
It also speeds the game up as well, and I don't mean it makes the game end quicker. It means that like your opponent has to get into your army faster, which is a kind of a bonus. So we talked about that Mortec Guard unit, you know, and its ability to res, but like you chip it down over time, it's going to go. But what the Mortec Guard unit and effectively this army generally wants you to do is they want you to come in straight away. They want you to get involved in the fight, and then they just want to attrition you out. Whereas, like, if you like hold off for a turn or 2 turns, they can just keep lobbing shots into you all day. Like, and then you're weak when you finally get engaged. So, and some armies can't bring everything that they need to bear into another army straight off the bat. So there's a lot of playing around with this list, and it's a really good one to look at because as much as it's a year old now, I really do feel like it defines a meta, like it defines a game, like. And they're popular. Like this time last year, we were talking about CanCon, and we were talking about LVO, and how there were 18, nearly 20 armies of the 200 at CanCon, and 18 or so at LVO, and they were like, and that was the most representative faction playing at both of those two events. So there's a lot of this army out there. Like when events start back up, when things happen, we're talking about KO. Like there never has been like a 10%, 11% representation for KO. It's always been like 4 or 5%, which is about average, really. So you're far more likely to run into this than you are to run into KO. And these are always going to pose that same problem. So something to think through for everyone, basically.
One thing I think it would be remiss not to point out that in the mid to late game, especially, Halalex in the chat has made reference to, that it is quite a slow army, and that is fair. That 40 block with the harvester, you can you can push that forward, but don't underestimate the Liege Cavalos and Xantos late game. I mean, they're very survivable. They're a 3-up save, if I remember correctly. Yeah, they are, because they used to be a 2-up. Well, Liege Cavalos used to be a 2-up in Petrifex, but they're a 3-up save. They've got a decent amount of wounds, and they're, that Xantos has a 12-inch move and the Liege has a 10-inch move, which you can then buff with the +3, and they're generating 2 RDP a turn each on their own. So in the late, you know what it's like, turn 4, turn 5, and everyone's just got a few bits and pieces left, and that's where you can win the game. They're probably going to have a crawler or 2 left back, and even if something's decimated those Mortec, I really think that the Liege and Arch Cavalos Xantos, they can push around. They have impact hits on the charge. They can buff themselves with the extra attacks and the rerolls Xantos can. So they can win in the late game with those survivable fast heroes after the rest of the army's been softened up. So yeah, I think it's one thing we can look at is what he beat, if you like. So Arthur, he did a classic sub. He lost his first round to Ash McEwen's Sons of Bahamut, and then he went on a 5-match winning run. So he beat Tempest Stylist, Hermdar, Lords of the Lodge, Fire Slayers, Seraphon, Dracothian's Tale. He beat 21 Eels in Idneth Deepkin. Wow. And then he beat a sort of Cole Wright, who we've talked about, his mixed Skaven list with the Storm Fiends and the Plague Furnace and the Monks and the Storm Vermin. I think in that game, it was the threat of the Crawlers that just kept the Storm Fiends back, and effectively sort of I think it was the threat of the Crawlers that won in that game, and I'm sure that the Crawlers were the special. I did see against his game against Seraphon, actually, he one-shotted a unit of 3 Salamanders with all the handlers. That's the thing, if your opponent rolls badly, just like you say with JP at Slaughter, roll those 1s and 2s, and you can lose a key piece to that flat 5. So yeah,
flat 5 it's outrageous. It's like it's really wild damage, but at least there's some sort of mitigation. Looking at the actual top 10, Owen, you've got Pietra with Seraphon and Mikhail with Seraphon as well. But all of these guys are 5-0. 5-1. So no one 6-0'd it, which is good. Then Juan Noah Singh with his Magickin and Nurgle. Arthur with his Osiark Bone Reapers, we just talked about him as well. George Castillo with his Lumina Throne Lords, and finally AZ with his Stormcast. Now, I'm pretty certain AZ's Stormcast is the Shootcast version, right?
That's correct, yeah. That's right.
So it'd be interesting to look at George's list and just see, like, because a 5-1 is, like, pretty significant. So it's Sire, Teclis, Cathalar, and it's got the Arulian Legion. Yeah, so like fairly at this stage, I think this is the cookie cutter version of what competitive Lumineth looks like, to me at least. Spell Portal, Teclis, the Legion, and then Cathalar. So it's a 2-drop terrifying list.
Yes, I think it might be. Yeah, you might be right. No, I think it's 3-drop with the Dawn Riders, but fundamentally you're right.
Course,
yeah. No, you're right. That it's low enough drop to determine who goes first and who goes second. Cathalar, I watched again. This is I think it's Jorge. I'm not sure. I don't want to pull you up on pronunciation, Rob, but I think it's Jorge. Jorge, he played against the Skaven of Cole, and between the Cathalar spell and the spell from the Law, which is effectively like Bellacoring units left, right, center, there was a unit of 40 Plague Monks, and they got to attack once, and then for the rest of the game they didn't even move because he was debuffing his bravery down so hard. So I think if you can reach out and touch the Cathalar, as opposed to Teclis, it does go a long way to neutering that. But this, 20 Sentinels, again, I think that's about the sweet spot. And 2 blocks of 20 Wardens are a real headache to get through when you make them. I've seen, again, Matthew Goldsborough, who's in the top 10 here with Lumineth, he's made quite a play of alpha striking with a block of 30 Wardens, which you can basically speed of Hish, double move, make them ethereal, get Teclis's aura up, and then just push them into your opponent. And you can win the game turn 1 with a block of Wardens going in sort of hard and fast.
It's a lot of output. Not forgetting there's obviously also that Umbral Spell Portal there. So that Technado is like, I don't want to always point to it, but I'm gonna. Like, I like, because this is what the numbers on the board don't really show. Time and time again, every time that Technado goes off, every time you see that Teclis spell go off, and it's like, you're like, okay, those Wardens are going to do well because we know the math on it, but we know that like he could have easily just done a flat 6 mortal wounds to a character through that Technado. Time and time again, like it could have gone really well. Now sometimes not, but it could have gone very, very spiky and gone wild all the time. And the fact it's just a choice. Am I going to do various amount of mortal wounds and chip damage into your army, then follow it up with a couple of units of Sentinels? So yes, it does in some way look like those Sentinels, it's not a lot, but actually there's loads of range damage in this army. Like, loads of range damage in Teclis. As well as, like you say, the DPR save, the command of the hero, like debuffing bravery. There's like a bunch of stuff in there. But like that to one is a big one to me that people avoid as well. Like also just, when you've got your cheap screens, you've got your cheap screens of 10 men who've got a rubbish bravery, and you just do D3 mortal wounds, D3 mortal wounds, D3 mortal wounds. You're like, cool. Like, I don't have to deal with them now. They don't exist. And it's his ability to do that, which I think is genuinely quite terrifying. And again, just needs to be talked about because you are going to experience it at tournaments, and it's very, very strong.
Yeah, it's a funny one. Like when you play a Lumineth list like this, it's like you've got your army and your build, and you're like, I can do these things. These are my strats. These are my combos. These are my power pairs. And then you come up against a Sire Lumineth list, and they just seem to have such. It's a fantastic toolbox because of the fact that you can. Sire is the one where you can use, each unit has a double share of Aether Quartz. So it's like, am I going to give them a +1? Am I going to re-roll that for an Aether Quartz? Am I going to give them +1 save? Am I going to give them +1 to hit? It's like Relentless Discipline or Aether Gold, but just the sort of next level up. It's like having a resource that has so much flex within an army that's got so much flex. And it's even things like Teclis. He's like, okay, I'm going to 4 spells with Teclis. 4 spells on an auto 10 is kind of the one. You see that all the time. But even with that, you don't need to cast those 4 spells all in a row. You just declare that you're going to do 4 with an automatic casting value of 10. And then Teclis just fills in the gaps here and there. So units he'll try and attempt to cast with the spell casting from the individual units, because every unit is a wizard, and then where there's a gap or something hasn't quite worked out because the dice failed, then Teclis can just then he'll nip in and auto cast something that has the same impact or whatever. It's really, and you can tell there in his list he has speed of Hish 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times he's got speed of Hish. So he appreciates that outside of those 5 Dawn Riders, it's a relatively slow army and techless, obviously. But I've not necessarily Jorge, but I've seen people being pretty bold with techless now as well. I've seen turn 1 Alpha Strike techless, which
he's a great pinning piece, right? So he's got a 3 up save, no, 4 up,
4 up base,
4 up base. But then he's in Sire, so he's going to make himself be a 3 up save. So that's pretty good, and he's got a 5 up DPR, so he's as tanky as a Vermin Lord. Straight off the bat, like that's pretty bold. Like that'll pin some things in, right?
Yeah, definitely. And there's just again, there's some, even like his shooting attack is really good. And again, looking at the idea of the Sentinels, he may only have taken 20, but if he can guarantee, or not guarantee, if he's got a very strong chance of getting Lambent Light off through the portal rather than doing the Technado, 20 with 4 rerolls is much more efficient than, say, 40 who were just doing mortal wounds on 5s and 6s without the rerolls. So, yeah, it's pretty finely honed, that. I can tell you very quickly, again, just for anyone who's interested, hopefully I can see. So, Jorge, he beat Stewart's Iron Guts. He beat Cole's Skaven. He beat Chris Hernandez with a Calibron list, I want to say. He lost to Clay in his first game. He was another one that's had a super sub, actually. He lost his first game to Clay Franchier with the sort of the Zinch summoning. And then he went on a 5-game winning streak to finish 5th. So, solid result there. And ended up with top Lumineth. So did good. Yeah, but I mean, the 2 Seraphon players that finished top, the one loss for Patari, who won the event, was against Mikhail, so that was in the Seraphon mirror. And then Mikhail's only loss was actually against a Legion of Night list, I want to say, or a Soul Blight list. Sorry, yeah, he lost Soul Blight, which was, he must have just failed some 4-ups on Parting Shot when he got charged, I'd imagine.
Sad face. Let's just quickly look at those and then look at the top 10. Just see how quickly Tabletop TO. So yeah, this is a Cottles. So Pietro's list is the Cottles Claw one, which has got the 15 Saurus Knights, the 12 Pterodon Riders. We have talked about these before. This list before. Bellwind Vortex bound Geminids. It's got that Pterodon Chief as well. So he's dropping a bunch of mortal wounds from the Pterodons. The Saurus Knights are getting buffed up by the Saurus Scarvet on Carnosaur as well, which is a more popular choice more and more recently, which I think is interesting. And then Mikhail's Seraphon list will be coalesced. So he's got, well, not coalesced. Sorry, he's got Fangs of Sotek, obviously, and then a slightly more traditional Seraphon list with obviously Croak, the Banner Bearer, the Star Priests, the Skink Priest, the 2 blocks of 40 Skinks. But then that big block of 20 Chameleon Skinks can't be not looked at. 360 points, Owen. What do you think?
Yeah, they're a threat. Again, it's very much like the crawler conundrum in terms of that your opponent can do this thing and you're just constantly trying to mitigate where he can get in, because again, they've got a 16-inch range, I want to say, with the blowpipes. So basically, if you put the screen out, you've then got to measure 7 inches back so that they can't just pop up, because they do work. Like, I think it's 2 shots a piece. It's 40 shots that do mortal wounds on the 6s to hit. I have been trolled by players who put the Serpent Staff on them, so they do 6s to hit and 6s to wound, which isn't the most efficient, but it's still really fucking horrible when they do that.
There's a lot of shots, right?
Yeah. And off the back of this tournament, I've started looking at lists that 6-inch pile in rather than having to charge, because charging with your combat dude and then getting it shot up is pretty nasty. I think we're going to see when we get back onto the table, I think there's going to be a lot of lizards running around. So figuring out ways to get around that Parting Shot is top of the list for me at the moment.
One of the things, looking at the top 10, the double Seraphon. Do you want to know a thing that we've talked about on the show again previously as well? I'm a big fan of this. I think I was talking to his friend last night on a podcast. but he's got all the Blight Kings in the Blight Cyst with a great and clean one. I won't lie to you, Owen. Winter FAQ could definitely add some points to Blight Kings. I'll be over the moon about that. It's not fun. It's not even interesting to you. There's nothing to mention or say. It's like whatever. But well done on doing well with it. And then looking down the wrist, look at this in 8th place, our man himself, Mr. Owen Jackson, with Blades of Corn.
I know, yeah. I thought it'd be a bit crass to talk about my own list in the previous weeks, but I am pretty happy with that. It was, and also I'm just really happy with the fact that I came 8th because I'm obviously a narrative wanker. So that's perfect for me with my corn. But I had some tough games, and it worked out. I mean, I was throwing Archeon around, and I think based on the chats we've had about Archeon recently, and he's getting a lot of love. There are better ways to build him, but I still think that Khorne Archeon is just absolutely savage, and if you can play it right, it's a hell of a lot of fun, even in a meta with loads of shooting. I was really pleased.
Well, isn't he particularly good into skink shooting because you have to reroll 6s to hit versus him, and that seems very strong against skinks.
It's strong against the camos, but the 6s to wound give you the mortals from the staff, so it's not quite that impactful.
It's just more that they miss more, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I mean, God, that rule, the Eye of Shiran that came up so often, it's fantastic against Sentinels, Sallies, Fire Slayers with poleaxes, the Hearthguard Berserkers. There's so much that procs on 6s that super powerful. And whilst I can't automatically do things like put the frog in the sword, there's lots of ways to get really good rerolls and buffs. It's just the classic sort of wind up Archeon, and I've been playing it for about 6 months now in different guises, and this one I decided to go the cute thing I like to do in this. So I'll just very quickly just run down the list from top to bottom. We could do a whole show on it because it's got a lot going on, but I'll just give you a really quick rundown. I'll just bring it up. So it's Reapers of Vengeance, which effectively means that all of my demon units can pile in an attack twice in succession, which is pretty nasty. It's Archeon. I have a Demon Prince, Slave to Darkness Demon Prince with the Crimson Crown. I have a Blood Secretor, a Slaughter Priest, a Bloodstoker, 4 units of 10 Reavers, Blood Reavers with Rend Axes, a War Shrine, and then I have a Dark Feast Battalion, and then I have the Wrath Axe and the Skulls, and I'm 1970. So it's very low model count. It's 96 wounds. Obviously, I like things to die. But the cute things that I've got going on are basically the Slaves to Darkness Demon Prince, because he fights at the start of the combat phase. People think he's just in there for his command ability, and the Crimson Crown allows him to use that command ability for free every turn. So basically, as long as he's on the board, he's halving charges and halving runs within an 18-inch bubble, which is super powerful. So it can protect Archeon when they buddy up. But the thing I like to do with him is he fights at the start of the combat phase. So on my turn, I can spend 2 CP at the start of the combat phase, and then the Demon Prince piles in and attacks twice, and then Archeon piles in and attacks twice. So I get 4 activations with obviously the Archeon's very powerful, but the Demon Prince can do some work as well. That just chews through a lot of stuff. I mean, I played my last game on Saturday, and I don't normally alpha, but if I'm given the opportunity and I'm fighting stuff that doesn't have a very good save, then the Demon Prince has 3 attacks with rend 2 and damage 2, and then he has 3 attacks with no rend and damage 2. So when he goes twice, and if he's in the Blood Secretor range, he's getting 16 attacks with flat 2 damage each, and he gets +1 to hit on the charge, and he's a Khorne demon, so he gets reroll 1s to hit. So he's 2s rerolling 1s, and then 3s to wound. And often if I get the Triumph and I get reroll wounds, I'll put it on him, because Archeon's got all the buffs. He gets to go. His turn 1 threat range is effectively 26 inches, and he gets +3 to charge because he gets whipped by the Bloodstoker, and he's often on a 2-up save because he's been bronzed flesh. And then you've just got flexibility with the War Shrine. If I'm going into a very magic heavy matchup, then I'll always go with the Favor of Tzeentch. So Archeon on his War Scroll has a 4-up ignore, but the Favor of the Prayer for Tzeentch on the War Shrine is another 4-up, which stacks, and it gives him a rerollable save. So very often I'm pushing him into the opponent, and he's got a 2-up rerollable save. He's making you reroll 6s to hit against him. He's got a 4-up save against mortal wounds, and then he's got a 4-up just to flat out ignore the spells. So he's not going to get debuffed very often. And that prayer is going off on a 3-up rerollable because I'm near the shrine. So it's very much about pushing Archeon in, double activating, and then being in a position to use the Blood Tide creatively. So, maybe attacking again, or if I lose, often what I'm doing is if I'm losing priority, I'm in a position to move Archeon out of the way, or perhaps charge a little shitty unit into an attacking unit so that it holds it up. And the last thing, really, because I'm running out of steam, is the Reavers. The Reavers.
Well, I was going to say it feels weak, right, with the Blood Reavers that they're just going to die.
They may die, but they'll kill some stuff while they go down because Dark Feast Battalion, when they're wholly within 16 of the Slaughter Priest, who's from the battalion, they get +1 attack. And then when they're wholly within 16 of the Blood Secretor, they get +1 attack. And when they're wholly within 16 of a totem, which is the War Shrine or the Secretor, they get +1 attack. So my 70-point tax unit is 41 attacks, 4s and 4s, rend 1, damage 1, which is pretty good. You can whip them if Archeons run off up the board. So they can kill some stuff. They can do some work. But similarly, if they just die, then that's fine. And it would be remiss of me not to talk about the judgments. Again, hero phase poke. There's loads that you can do in Khorne because the hero phase activation or hero phase move is at the start of the hero phase, but all the prayers are at the start of the hero phase too. So you can buff the shit out of him and then move him forward, which is huge. And my little trick with the skulls is it's so good against magic because effectively the Hexgorger skulls, if you're within 12 of them, of one of them, you're -2 to cast, and if you're within 12 of both of them, you're -2 to cast. And if you roll a natural 8, that wizard and all other wizards within 12 take D6 mortal wounds.
Yep.
So if my opponent doesn't want to cast, then I use Archeon to proc the skulls. So I'll use Archeon to try and roll. I have 2 attempts, and often I'm near my Blood Secretor, so I'm having to re-roll my successful attempts. So I'll have 4 attempts at getting a natural 8. And then, yes, Archeon will take D6 mortal wounds, but so will all the wizards in my opponent's army.
And he's going to ignore half of them.
Yeah, precisely. I don't care about D6 mortal wounds, but your Cathalar or your little Skink Star Priest or I've literally picked off loads of heroes in one go, just procking it like that. So I do warn my opponents I can do it, but with the fact that he can move in the hero phase and the skulls have an effective 28-inch threat range and they move at the start of the hero phase as well, so I can move them up into position and then do it. It's like with all Khorne lists, there's loads and loads of auras and bubbles and keeping everything in range. But when you get it all, it's like a symphony. When you get all the musical instruments to combine together perfectly, it's just, it's a symphony of carnage. It's brilliant fun.
I really love the idea of using Archeon to cast it to proc the skulls. That sounds super fun. Because so many people were dropping the skulls because they were they're finding the utility was too short range effectively for it to be an issue. But I love how you're finding a way to make them work, because if they do work, they impact some of the most powerful armies in the game. Obviously Lumineth, obviously Seraphon as well, and as we've talked about, Archeon is really, really positive into both of those 2 armies as well. Making you reroll successful 6s is good against Salamanders, Sentinels, Wardens, some of the top picks. So it feels like Archeon is a really power piece counter meta pick at the moment, whichever army he's in. However, the Hexgorger Skulls is a double bonus in that situation.
Yeah, it's a little bit of extra spice which is thrown in there, and it is, the one amazing thing that I found with Archeon, and I've learned so much playing with him through this tournament, is just that apart from his movement, obviously, which is key, movement and the amount of attacks he gets on his heads, everything else doesn't get bracketed in any way. You're always going to get 4 Slayer of Kings. You're always going to get 2 of the monstrous claws. I mean, those claws, I played into a Fire Slayers, and I had 4 activations with him over 2 turns. And the Dorgar's claws did 12 damage, 12. This is on 2d6. 12 damage, 12 damage, 11 damage, 10 damage. Wow. Yeah, it was insane. Yeah, he killed 40 Hearthguard Berserkers and didn't take a wound, which I know sounds preposterous, but
That
when
that
you're
that is preposterous.
but when you're I mean, like those Polaxes, just they got no rend, and I've got a 2-up rerollable save, so all he's relying on is the mortals to go through. And again, even the bouncing mortals, if someone's able to get some mortals through on you, then you might bounce back. And yeah, Archeon's just brilliant. I don't want to turn this into the Archeon show again, but
I don't think we mind. I think I mean, I've done more than one like full Archeon rundown on the show several times. I think it's just the fact that the Chaos faction is so good for having so many overlapping buffs, and then that just fits into Archeon. So really, Archeon's a vessel to talk about all the really cool things that are available out there. Plus, his Slaves to Darkness War Scroll update was massive. Like there was some real positive changes to him as a playing piece, and you are talking about a unit that's 800 points. He
should be good.
He should be good. He should be good. But again, you don't see him you went 4-2. You didn't go 6-0. There's some really powerful play in there, but not like demonstrably powerful. Like if we look at like tournament results over the past 6 months, I know it's been a bit hit and miss here and there. Some Archeons have done well, but they've never really like whomped the top tables all the time, like we obviously see Fangs of Sotek Seraphon. So it's a great piece that plays, and it's super fun. Love it.
Yeah. One last little thing I would say is that anyone considering taking Archeon or building a list around him, I would say that Chaos War Shrine is a really key piece, mainly because when you take Archeon not in Slaves to Darkness, then it means you don't have to specify the dominant keyword for him. So when you do your War Shrine prayers on him, he always gets the double buff. So, for example, even though he's not in a Nurgle army, the Nurgle keyword on his War Scroll allows him to get the double War Shrine buff. So he gets reroll wounds and +1 save. In Tzeentch, he gets reroll saves and the 4-up extra spell ignore. In Undivided, he gets hits and wounds. So, yeah, I never would want to take another sorcerer. People take a sorcerer lord for the reroll saves, which is really strong, but I often find that Archeon leaves him behind. That War Shrine with an 8-inch move, he can keep up. And I would definitely say the War Shrine. If anyone's playing me, like whenever I've lost, people have targeted the War Shrine. So yeah.
One of the things I was going to say was is that the War Shrine slaps in close combat as well. Like not brilliant, but like okay. And you can have the War Shrine will do a fight on if you're trying to use a little 10-man unit to go take an objective off a War Shrine. War Shrine's probably going to win that fight oftentimes. Pretty comfortably as well. Like, only counts as one model, obviously, but he's it's just great. Like it's a really great piece. And so this was the Butcher's GT event, which happened over the course of weeks. What was your experience of we've talked about it a bit on the show before? What was your experience of being able to prep so heavily before matches as opposed to just quickly on the tabletop?
It's a blessing and a curse. I think it has given me the opportunity to learn a lot about the 6 armies that I played against, but similarly, you can get yourself a little bit worked up and worried about what your opponent can do quite a bit. Like I found myself to be quite nervous before a few games. But the whole vibe of Pask had it all set up in the end, whereby in his Discord channel, people were actually flagging when they were going to play and, saying, all right, so 6 p.m. it'll be 6 p.m. on Tuesday, table 2 game. And people were, tuning in. So, it's definitely created online Owen. I've been online watching a lot of games and then playing in it. Yeah, there's lots of, you do miss that, the buzz of the one day kind of tournament or the weekend tournament, but to track and see how other players are doing and seeing your mates doing well and being able to watch the games and build the hype, it was really cool. And I think Pask is gonna run another one. I think it's a really good format, and it's a nice antithesis to the one day, because a lot of people, with kids and families and jobs and all that, sort of necessary stuff, they often can't play in a one day because sitting at your computer for 10 hours is just not viable. So I think that this 6 games over 6 weeks is really cool. Okay,
That's really sweet, and I'm glad you've taken part. And big thank you to Pask for doing such a good job for the community and organising something so wonderful. That's pretty baller, to be honest. And it's probably also over the next, like, not just past event, but any TTS events as we've talked about. Probably one of those things that need to occur still over the next 3 to 6 months before the worldwide gaming kind of gets back into shape. So that's going to be a cool takeaway, and it's going to be fun to keep track of these. There's a really fun event happening there's 2 events this weekend, I think. Salmon Hall's event over in Australia is occurring, which is sweet.
Yep.
And then also a very unique event is occurring on TTS on Saturday, where Darren and Adam have written a bunch of... Darren Watson and Adam Mumford, the Warhammer Freedom Fighter, have written a bunch of lists for people to play an event, a TTS event, which is a super cool feature. Do you like the idea of that?
Yeah, it's classic Adam, really. Secret Santa TTS he's calling it. So yeah, you don't know. It's kind of like riffing off the idea that you're going to get this little package, and inside is your crazy list, and then you're going to have, I don't know how long, maybe a day or 2 to figure out how to play it, and then. Yeah, I think there's about 16 of us at the moment, and yeah, we can put the link in the show notes if anyone wants to join. But yeah, you're going to have a rather fun list to play for the weekend, and we're all going to be in the same boat trying to figure it out. But yeah, some of the lists that I've seen floating around are like nice balance between spammy fun and actually being potentially quite powerful. So yeah, that should be a hell of a lot of fun. So yeah, we've got Secret Santa TTS on Saturday. And then, yeah, like you say, we've got Simon's Southern Scrap, which is in a place called Logan, which is south of Brisbane, I believe, at this coming weekend. And he's sent me all the lists. So perhaps later in the week, Rob, if we want to have a chat with people who want to hear.
If you'd love to.
Yeah,
I'd love to.
Man, I'm up for it. Yeah, so later in the week we'll deep dive those, and I think there's some interesting stuff there. Again, the Aussies always have an interesting set of lists to dig through, so that'll be fun.
Okay, all right, yeah, no, great. I'm looking forward to it. Later in the week, let's do that. That's fun. I don't think we'll be covering the event. There were plans to maybe cover the event, but it coincides with us trying to get the venue sorted, so I don't think they're going to clash now, unfortunately. But Owen, thank you. You've done the lion's share of the work today with your experiences and what's been going on around the world. Next week, we will have results. We'll have results from both those 2 events. So at least 2 events. But if you do have any event results from anywhere around the world, like Marcus did, or anything else, then please do drop us a message. We'd love to hear about them and talk about them, especially the lists and any ancillary information going along with it. That helps feed the machine that is the AOS Stats Center. So please do get in touch. And there is a Discord as well, so if you ever want to drop us a message to find out what that is. Owen, thanks for being on the show. I hope you have a great day. Thanks for being my 69, my second one. My third one, actually, 269.
Sorry, I don't know what that
was. Thank you to everyone on the show who subscribed, supported us on Patreon, or donated any money or anything over the past 269 days of a stream streak, because it's pretty wild that it's been going this long. We're definitely going to hit the year, and it's going to be fun. So anyway, you guys have been great. Thank you so much to everyone who's joined us. Owen, thanks. Any shout-outs before we go, Owen?
I'll just shout everybody out. Just be good to yourselves. Be nice to yourselves. Again, I think I've said it before. If you want to buy some models, go out, be nice to yourself, because it's a bit shit at the moment. So, yeah, that's it, really. Just shout out to all you lovely Warhammer nerds. Keep being cool.
Yeah, you're all great, but Owen is also the coolest. You guys have a great day, and see you guys soon. Bye.